Hello, landing page optimization listeners. This is your host, Tim Ash. Next time you browse through iTunes or the Google Play Store on your smartphone, make sure to land on and download the webmasterradio.fm mobile app. Listen to new episodes of LPO every Monday or catch up on all the interviews featuring me speaking with the best and brightest conversion thought leaders of today. Download the webmasterradio.fm mobile apps in the iTunes Store or via Google Play today.
Welcome to LPO, Landing Page Optimization. Landing Page Optimization expert Tim Ash is here to show you what it takes to create optimal landing pages. LPO brings you detailed case studies, opinions, and analysis from the leaders of landing page optimization. Now here's your host, Tim Ash.
Welcome back, loyal listeners. This is your host, Tim Ash, for LPO, Landing Page Optimization. And today I have my friend and speaker from Conversion Conference, Joe Doveton, who's the head of client services at GlobalMaxers. They basically help companies that are international with their conversion issues, but I actually going to let Joe introduce himself. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Tim. Good to speak to everybody.
Yeah, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about GlobalMaxers and how you help your clients and what your specific kind of niche is, if you will.
Yeah, so there's two bits to what we do. We're we're both a technology platform that does multivariate and A/B testing, but we also have a research division here that looks particularly into whether companies are having problems with cultural or international issues around conversion, whether it's calls to action but not being translated properly, or preferences on color or alignment and that kind of stuff around the globe.
Okay, well, so it's we like to think that we're in this kind of English-speaking world, but or this American-centric world. But I think the American century was the last century. Looks like we're entering probably the Chinese or Indian or Brazilian century this time around. How do you see kind of the cultural dominance of America in this scheme of things, in terms of the internet?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And a lot of the stuff that we do is looking at the kind of degrees to which the Anglophone world is going to be certainly probably not replaced, but what the Anglophone world is going to look like on the web, because actually the English-speaking web was around first, and in a lot of countries they've absorbed English words and phrases into just not only their search behavior, but also into the kind of ways that they talk about the web. An example of that might be in China. Predominantly, web content is presented back in the same way as Latin script, left to right. But increasingly in Asia, particularly with the way that the device is moving from sort of like a landscape device of a desktop PC to a portrait device of a mobile, there's the opportunity to do things more in a kind of traditional Chinese way.
Which is the up and down writing. Yep.
Correct, yeah, top right to written down to top left. And I know that, Kindle, for example, are making Japanese books available in that format. So I don't think the Anglophone world will be replaced. I think what's happening instead is that there's a kind of global web language that has evolved that's predominantly English, but with significant parts of local culture absorbed to it.
Well, and then, of course, there are certainly islands and holdouts that insist on their own culture. I think notably, and the French are notorious for this, making up French words for every new technical term that comes out and having a ministry of culture and language. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, even in France, you've got terms like informatique for computing and réseau for networking. Actually, we've done work in France. A lot of the acronyms that you might use, like CRM for customer relationship management, those have survived wholly intact. So although they're very proud and protective of their language, it's not exclusively the case that that they won't use English. In fact, I've just been doing a report for a client, and about 55% of French people, surprisingly for me, speak some form of English, which is much higher than it is in reverse. So even though they're very, very protective, they're not that protective, and they have to do a certain amount of communication on the web. And of course, with French Canadians, there's much less of a tendency to be quite so fundamentalist about using French, and a lot of English loan words have been absorbed into French Canadian.
Right, I would expect that since the country has two official languages. Of course, if you're inside of Quebec, don't count too much English being spoken. Well, okay, but even the variants of English, let's talk about that. I mean, somebody once famously joked that America and England, where you're based, are two countries divided by a common language. What about just culturalisms and different uses of words? Do you find that even English variants can be confusing?
Yeah, so particularly in e-commerce, you see Americans use shipping, we use delivery, and, we use, especially if you bought you're an e-commerce provider and you bought a platform from an American software company, I do see this a lot. Shipping being a term that's used, for kind of UK delivery. It's not a concept that really applies to us because, we're an island and everything kind of travels by train, so we'd virtually never ship something. We would always deliver something. That would be...
well, it's interesting because shipping doesn't necessarily mean to go by ship in the U.S. sense of the word. That basically means delivery. It's just our word for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, but there's a phrase that we probably wouldn't use in the UK. And, I mean, there are other examples in other industries like, we have a brand here that we've worked with called Cheap Flights, where, of course, in the US, you'd have cheap airfares. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of, I suppose the interesting thing is if you're a brand that's operating in both the US and the UK market, you need to do the keyword research again. It's the fundamental point because what your customers are searching for in the UK will be probably quite different from what they're searching for in the US.
Well, so really, and I don't think it's just keyword research. We still don't have the cultural framework to hang that on if we're dealing with an international market, and vice versa. How important is it to have not just a fluent speaker, but a culturally fluent person taking a look at your foreign websites or web experiences?
Yeah, I think it's important to have somebody with a modicum of local knowledge to review, not just the text-based communication, but also the visual-based communication. There are varying degrees in the research that we've done for preferences. For example, if you're using photography of people, reflecting the dominant ethnicity of the groups that are in that culture, or if it's multicultural, kind of reflecting the fact that you might have... in the US, the case of you might have Europeans, you might have African Americans, you might have Asian Americans, something that's much more representative of the sample. Whereas in more kind of monocultural environments, you wouldn't necessarily expect to see an Indo-European subject in photography. You'd like to see South Asians.
Yeah, I know that there's for example, in Brazil, obviously there's a long and sordid racial history in the U.S., but I know that there are complaints among the Brazilian population that, for example, all the advertisements are kind of European, whitish looking people, and there are almost no black models in ads or billboards or on the web. So it's definitely kind of also says something about, racial superiority attitudes and things like that as well, right?
Yeah, very much. In Brazil, that's a kind of class issue because a lot of, in a lot of South American cultures, the kind of South American indigenous population tend to be sort of, the kind of lower class people, and it's kind of a knock-on effect really from the fact that it kind of portrays a level of elitism or exclusivity for the sort of European Latin Americans, and you can understand why that there's a kind of bit of a backlash to that. So, having been to Brazil, if you walk around town like Rio, you can see a family out. And very, very strongly mixed ethnicity. It's just a kind of, that's what the way of life is like. It's very, very multicultural. So you can understand that being an issue in Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had to kind of So in terms of, let's talk about language again for a second in terms of just script and websites. So do you expect that the English dominance will continue, but that native cultures and scripts will be available in parallel with it? Is that basically kind of the uptake of what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, I think there's a mixed appetite for kind of bilingualism on the web. Now, it depends I think that one of the things is it depends what the market is. So something like e-commerce, people really do expect a lot of that, because that's kind of like for everybody, right? E-commerce. So there's an expectancy on e-commerce and retail websites that much more of that content is localized into local language. I've just been doing some research for a global brand, and if it's a corporate website or it's something that's B2B, there might be much more of an appetite for kind of English first, but also having some local language content in there. Business English is still the lingua franca of global business. So, kind of if you join an organization like a global brand, you kind of expect to be doing some of your communication in English. But
okay, well, it actually strikes me as ironic that you just said lingua franca about English. But okay, I think on that we're going to have to do a commercial break, and we'll be back in 2 minutes after a word from our sponsors.
More LPO landing page optimization in just a moment.
Guys, are you suffering from FD, fulfillment dysfunction? Let MoldingBox.com's online portal system for inventory, tracking, and returns perform for you. We have the enormous tools you need for complete warehousing, shipping, and handling of all your packages, no matter the size or shape, directly to your customers. MoldingBox.com can also fulfill all your nourishing, nutraceutical, and smooth skincare product desires, including green coffee and Garcinia on demand. Plus, let our in-house printing and CD, DVD manufacturing help you enlarge and maximize your coaching and business opportunity potential. We do everything: fulfillment, shipping, tracking, inside and out, and all in one place. MoldingBox.com. It's shipping made sexy. Come visit us at AdTech New York, booth number 738.
Building better search engine rankings takes the right formula. Tracking those rankings is super simple. All you need is AuthorityLabs.com. Authority Labs uses automated daily rank tracking tools to monitor your site's performance, or leverage their API to build your own tools. No matter what animal-labeled algorithms affect your ranking, you should be using Authority Labs. Unlimited users for no additional cost and white labeling can help keep your clients updated and save countless hours of creating reports. Whether you're running sites with just a few or millions of keywords, what you need is AuthorityLabs.com.
I'm John Ball, and I'm one of the founders of Page One Power. Page One Power is a custom link building firm based in Boise, Idaho. We increase search rankings and web traffic for world-class brands and mom-and-pop shops all around the globe. Our link building strategies work because we focus on relevancy and quality, and we don't outsource anything. Our in-house staff of professional writers and researchers is the best in the industry. We're the link builders you've been looking for. Visit us today at pageonepower.com.
Hold on to your white hat or black hat. Webmasterradio.fm is ready to take you behind the backlinks. We're digging and scraping past the surface of everyday news and views of search engine marketing and dropping our proverbial anchor text on the important issues affecting the industry with our panel of search engine insiders. Behind the backlinks.
Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific.
On demand, anytime, inside the Search Engine Optimization channel, only on WebmasterRadio.fm.
Welcome back to LPO, Landing Page Optimization, only on WebmasterRadio.fm. Here's Tim Ash.
And we're back. This is your host, Tim Ash, for LPO, Landing Page Optimization. And I'm continuing my conversation with Joe Doveton from GlobalMaxers. Now, Joe, we were talking about different cultural influences. Let's kind of switch gears and talk about technology adoption in different areas of the world. I know that in a way that some, you could say, laggard economies have a leg up because they skipped the whole, say, landline phones and went to mobile phones. And in some quote-unquote more backward countries, you have much higher adoption of mobile usage and a much higher fluency with it. Talk a little bit about kind of the technology adoption in different parts of the world and how that influences people's experiences on the web.
It's a really interesting point for me because we do a lot of kind of technological research in each country. It's important to, I think, if you're launching into a new market, to research, what the kind of infrastructure's like. So take something like browsers. I've just been doing a report on this for another client. But if you look in China, IE6 for certainly for the States and for a lot of countries in Europe is officially dead. However, if you go into the Chinese market, well, yeah, you said it, but if you've got your web developers there working on a very new kind of HTML5 friendly website, what they probably don't know is that IE6 has still got 25% market share in the Chinese market. IE8 is 22%. And even there are other browsers like things like Maxthon, which is based on IE6, about 2%. So you can't just assume that the technology that your developers, so your web team are building in, is actually what the customers are using on the ground. So, if you're launching into China, you've got to make sure it's backwardly compatible for the main browser.
And that's also, I think, a cautionary tale for the actual developers, because if you're a web designer or a creative person, you're probably sitting in front of a pretty large screen. And there's a bias, like everything fits. It looks good for me. And there's really, what do you think about cross-browser testing and looking at different screen sizes, just to kind of shake off that bias?
Well, yeah, and I think that's an absolute necessity, and we do that a lot, certainly when we're doing, when we're kind of sanity checking tests that we set up. But, I think there's also this issue about the kind of general move from landscape to portrait. If you look at what's going on in Africa, and you're right, they certainly skipped 3G internet, and they're kind of, most of the growth in Africa is going to be driven by smartphone, as in access to the internet. Price Waterhouse have just basically done a report on African spending. South Africa's internet access is going to increase 25% year on year up to 2017. That's driven by smartphones. Wow. Same is true for Nigeria, same for Kenya. So there's three massive markets there, potentially for global businesses. And they're missing out the fixed landline stuff completely and going straight to smartphone. Now, of course, the other thing you've got there is you're looking at smartphone from the kind of view of generally speaking, from a portrait angle. So, you've got issues like, is responsive design fit for purpose for those markets, or actually, really, do you want a fully localized experience specifically for those markets for smartphones?
Right, and it seems like even within smartphones, there's fragmentation. I mean, I've seen lots of studies that say, Apple versus Android, that even though the numbers are definitely on Android side and that gap is widening, that Apple users, I mean, I may be completely wrong on this number, so please don't hold me to task, but are 90% of the online sales through smartphones in the U.S. are through Apple devices, even though that's not their market share, obviously. So you see kind of different things going on there. But that's a first world phone, if you will. Not many people can afford a $500 smartphone. So how does that play in?
Yeah, I think that's from the data that we look at when we're looking at things like Google Analytics for our clients, very much led by iOS. Android still being pretty small. To the point was we kind of for most of our tests, UK and US, when we say mobile, we are looking at iOS primarily. But absolutely, I think that kind of a lot of the Asian manufacturers have got pretty good market share in Africa. It's going to be. I can't see Apple particularly cutting their margins to kind of cater for the Asian market. So you've got issues like kind of refurbed phones potentially coming into play. You've got issues like other Motorola or other manufacturer, LG perhaps, who are even cheaper than Samsung.
Right,
a lot of those manufacturers might be an issue. You'd expect Android to be big in an emerging market like Africa, though.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe the usage is, again, in the U.S. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out, but it's actually true. I mean, I have an Android phone, and I don't think I've ever bought anything online through my phone. So maybe those Apple people, I mean, they do have a higher disposable income on average, and are just kind of more, I guess you could say, early adopters. Technology hipsters, if you will. Is there a cultural component to it as well as a kind of demographic and financial?
Yeah, and I think there's probably, in all those economies where there's an emerging middle class, India, Brazil, Russia, even China, it's kind of the equivalent status symbol rules kind of apply. They say they do in Western cultures. But I think in other cases, because some of those markets are catching up so fast, and it becomes, an essential item, perhaps in Africa, that ubiquity of everybody having a smartphone device may be less sensitive to the kind of that kind of, you've got to have the hipster latest big brand.
Right, and but I mean, it's true. I know we've worked with online sellers of mobile phones in Brazil, for example, and it's very much seen as a smartphone as an aspirational status item. So it's kind of a lust object, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about cultural differences, and what I mean by that is, for example, when I was in Germany on my last trip, I know that Germans are much more highly sensitive to the notion of privacy, for example, and having their personal information disclosed or shared. How do those things? Can you give us a couple examples and talk about how that plays into web experiences?
Yeah, and it's a really good point. I mean, actually stepping back, from the specific example of something like Germany, we quite often start with looking at there's a few sort of academic models about culture that kind of even now still apply. There's things like Geert Hofstadter's cultural dimensions, where he talks about 5 different indexes of or aspects of culture and scores countries based on that. So a society like Germany would be, it's kind of highly democratic, and there's not too much difference between the sort of role, the gender roles of men and women, but still quite traditional. People are, as you say, quite private. From the point of view of their spending patterns, the Germans are, very strongly credit averse. So if you have an e-commerce store that you're suddenly sending to Germany, they're very unlikely to have a credit card. I think credit card penetration is about 20%. Their preferred payment method is either things like prepaid invoice or prepaid card or electronic cash, one of those methods. And that they're also, from research that we've seen from something like from DIBS, for example, which is a big global e-commerce report, if they don't see the option they want to see in the checkout, they probably won't revisit that site.
So that says that in terms of specifically e-commerce and checkout experiences, you definitely have to localize your checkout experience. We have some joint clients with Cleverbridge, and they focus primarily on informational products and software and things like that. But they work very hard to make their e-commerce cart very kind of culture and country specific.
Yeah, and generally in Western Europe, the Germans, the Finns, the Norwegians are sort of fairly credit averse, but most other people are kind of fine with it. There's, the UK, France, Italy, Spain, they're kind of happy with credit card payment. Obviously, North America is credit cards. When you start thinking about cultural sensitivities as well around religion, then you've also got to have a rethink there, because there is one of the concepts of Islam is the concept of riba, which is kind of against lending money and interest. So they have a problem with credit cards in the Islamic world. So one of the ways that they get around that is that you're allowed to use a credit card as long as you pay it off before you get round to accruing interest on the card. And of course,
so that's kind of similar to the furniture purchases in the U.S. where they say no interest till 2019, that sort of thing, right? You're going to get nailed with interest if you go a day past that, but up to that date, there's no interest.
Totally, yeah. There's like Sharia-friendly mortgages, in that kind of market. That's always quite interesting. I found examples recently of Arabic specialist e-commerce websites that even do, kind of time-managed checkout, so that when people are due to be at prayers in the afternoon or in the evening or in the morning, their checkout automatically switches off, so people can't buy anything from your store whilst they're supposed to be at prayers. So it's kind of like the ultimate, if you like, Islamic
forcing function.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably something akin to that for Orthodox Jews as well. Well, we're going to have to take another commercial break, and when we come back, though, Joe, I want to explore your other side, the creative musician, wacky side of you. So we'll be back in 2 minutes after our second commercial break.
More LPO, landing page optimization, in just a moment.
Ever wondered how you could have access to your own SEO expert, paid search specialist, or social media wizard? Looking for help with your affiliate, display media, or email marketing? Look no further than the folks at Fang Digital Marketing. Fang Digital specializes in both paid and organic search, social media, display, and mobile advertising solutions, and is staffed by industry veterans from Google, Yahoo, and one of the industry's most influential PPC experts. Fang Digital's award-winning staff stays on top of the latest in digital trends and offer tailored solutions so they can audit your progress and build a roadmap to your success. Learn more about their expanding range of full-service strategic marketing solutions at fangdigital.com. That's F-A-N-G digital.com.
If you're constantly struggling to find more customers, revenue, or hours in the day, Infusionsoft can help you have the business you've always wanted. For over 10 years, Infusionsoft has been helping business owners just like you find the financial freedom and peace of mind you've been searching for.
I'm Scott Martineau, co-founder of Infusionsoft. If you're struggling to find more customers, more revenue, or more hours in the day, Infusionsoft is the proven solution you're looking for. Infusionsoft, the only all-in-one sales and marketing software created specifically for small businesses.
Learn more at www.infusionsoft.com/radio.
Oh yeah, my day is done. Time for happy hour.
You're already done for the day?
Yeah, because I use certifiedknowledge.org. Their PPC tools literally save me hours every day.
How do you keep on top of all of Google's new features?
Easy. With Certified Knowledge, their interactive learning modules keep me up to date, and if there's something I don't know, I can watch their video lessons without having to hunt around the Google help files.
Great. I'm ready to expand my knowledge.
Hi, I'm Brett Geddes. I'm the only leader officially supported by Google to teach the advanced track of the AdWords Seminars for Success. I personally recommend CertifiedKnowledge.org as your one-stop shop for all your PPC needs.
Learn, optimize, connect. Be smart. Go to CertifiedKnowledge.org now.
Advance your affiliate marketing efforts every week on Affiliate Buzz. Our hosts, James and Arlene Martell, are here to inspire, inform, and motivate you with expert insight, interviews, and information that will increase your bottom line. Affiliate Buzz, on demand anytime inside the Affiliate Marketing Channel, only on webmasterradio.fm. Welcome back to LPO, Landing Page Optimization, only on webmasterradio.fm. Here's Tim Ash.
And we're back. This is your host, Tim Ash, for LPO, Landing Page Optimization, and I'm speaking today with Joe Doveton, Head of Client Services at GlobalMaxer. Joe, you're a musician, but not just one of those garage band kind of guys. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've got a little band and a little record label here in the UK. We actually, funnily enough, a bit like you've heard the concept of selling ice to the Inuit or sand to the Arabs.
To the Eskimo.
We kind of do American, exactly. We do kind of American influenced rock and folk pop type music. So there's a genre we have in the UK. I suppose it's the same in the US called Americana, and we very loosely fit into that. So it's kind of a bit of country, a bit of Appalachian music, a bit of old time stuff.
Well, you know that originally the U.S. imported all that from the U.K. and Scotland. Yeah. There's the irony, huh?
That's right, yeah. So it's kind of things go back and forth across the saying it's our version of Americana back to you.
But you guys actually have 5 published albums, as I understand it. And
that's right, yeah.
If somebody wanted to find your band, what would they look up and get a listen?
Okay, the band's Caramel Jacks. If you go on to, I believe the search engine of choice is Google, despite what Bing are telling us today. Some very interesting stuff they're doing with getting you to try out Bing. But if you go into Google or Bing, type in Caramel Jack, you'll find some information. We're on things like Spotify. We're on our records are available to buy on Amazon. So if you go on there, you can download or buy the records on there.
Huh, fantastic. Yeah, actually, whoa, you guys have a Wikipedia entry.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Fantastic.
We're fully social media'd up.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're in this industry and you don't, then then you have a problem. Well, great. Let's end on a kind of fun note. Colors. Colors can be used to mean completely different things in different cultures. I mean, for example, in Russia, the kind of the dress-up color way back in the day was red. And the word krasny, which is red, and krasivaya, which is beautiful, come from that same root. Are there other kind of cultural preferences in terms of color and things to avoid, maybe, or things to, buttons to push in certain cultures?
Well, thanks. First of all, Tim, thanks for the tip about the Russian use of red. I shall certainly add that to our cultural database as another facet of culture. We didn't have that one. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is down to the circumstance about what you're selling, or what the experience online is. But I suppose there isn't, as far as I know, a kind of overarching academic cultural theory of colour, but there are sort of more in the realm of heuristics about kind of trends that are popular in different countries. So we know in China red is a colour that means good luck and peace, and people give red envelopes at weddings and wear red for weddings and so on. Whereas in the West it also has associations of data and kind of action. So it's quite different for the West versus China, but. There are some interesting little differences in colour. So green has some notions of criminality in France, means death in some parts of South America.
And I think it's the color of mourning in some parts of the Middle East, as I understand it as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yes, it is. You're quite right. I think a lot of it depends on what the industry you're selling in. There's a very good survey that I found by a guy called Joe Halleck, which is I think the paper set up on the internet, and it was originally supposed to be a cultural survey, but he surveyed about 1,500 people, and it's quite interesting that actually the colours that consistently come out that are popular for concepts like trust and security and high quality are things like silver, white, black, and so on. Whereas colours that mean cheap and expensive, orange, yellow, brown, kind of more sort of bodily function related colours generally tend to be
fast food colours.
Find nasty or cheap or inexpensive. So, but now actually in some countries there are countries that are so synonymous with the culture that they're really popular. In the Netherlands, orange is everywhere. The soccer team wear orange, although it's not included in the flag. Everything, wherever you go, there's
right. Or kind of green, yellow, blues in Brazil. Same thing. It's just everywhere.
Right. Green, yellow, blue. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I'm afraid we're running out of time. I know we could keep talking for hours, and maybe in the future I'd love to bring you back. So if you're interested in learning more about GlobalMaxer, just go to globalmaxer.com. And Joe, are going to be speaking at any upcoming events? How should folks reach out to you if they want to connect?
Yeah, any visitors who are based in the UK, I'm speaking at MeasureFest in London next week on Wednesday.
Well, just say, okay, well, I think that this probably will be airing after that, but any other upcoming shows?
We also do a show called the International Digital Forum that's in London on the 17th of November.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, thanks again. It was a blast. Thanks for taking us on a cultural spin around the world of conversion. And loyal listeners, we'll be back soon with another installment of LPO, Landing Page Optimization.
This has been a presentation of WebmasterRadio.fm, the world's largest business-to-business radio and podcast network. We welcome you to sample past episodes of this program, as well as our complete library of programs, on demand or on the air via our 24/7 live audio stream at www.webmasterradio.fm. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of WebmasterRadio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of webmasterradio.fm is prohibited.